Last time on The Night and Its Moon, the girls planned to run away, but they did it very slowly. Amaris got her period, and it was the most dramatic thing ever. The brothel owner wanted to buy Amaris because she's so white and so virginal. A strange witcher man showed up, and the girls decided they couldn't leave just yet. Poorly planned hijinks ensued, and then Amaris scarred herself and ran off with the not witcher.
The cats are circling. They've already had dinner, but they think they need second dinner. I'm going to punish myself some more by reading another chapter of this book. This chapter is a little bit shorter. It's only 19 pages long instead of 30. However, we are 100 pages in, and we're only on chapter 5. I mean, I write long chapters myself, but come on now. Oops, I forgot to empty my memory card. Oopsie poopsie. Alright, quick break. I'm back. Thank you for your patience, even though for you, that took no time at all. Netflix is advertising me Crimson Peak. I love that movie. I would rather be watching that than reading this, but let's go. We've just been told multiple times that the autumn air is cold, but she has ridden off with a strange man into parts unknown. Now, one of my books begins with a character riding off with a strange man. So one would think I would be pro character riding off with a strange man. But the situation is just so odd. Like, why did she make every choice that she made up until this point? Why did she, after she ruined her face, decide that the best thing to do was to get on a horse with a strange man? And she's not speaking to him because it's, like, super awkward. So it's a good thing that this guy, I'm pretty sure, is going to turn out to be essentially very nice. Awkward sentence time. Her peripherals could see the man. She could see him in her peripheral vision. She could see him out of the corner of her eye. She's still not concerned. This guy goes away. He comes back with a rabbit. He's skinning it. She's, like, completely detached. She is, like, disassociated completely. So she's not even thinking yet about the choice that she made. She's just like, my world is thrown asunder. Also, she has slashed her own face and her own, like, chest. Like, she slashed her titty. And we're getting no descriptions of pain whatsoever. The only description of pain we have gotten is her period, which was apparently extremely painful and she bled everywhere. But, like, we skipped out on the pain when Knox was beaten, and now we're not getting any pain from her cutting her face. I'm curious if this author is going to make this a habit of, like, avoiding describing pain, or if this is just, like, a few times kind of thing. But if you want to write good pain, I have a video for that. Check out my video all about writing tips for writing pain and injury. Wait. This guy is like, clean off your cuts, and then I'll give you a healing tonic, and you can pay me later. This guy had a healing tonic, but he went to the child mill for healing. Why didn't he just use this healing tonic? Also, we've been starting to hear things about tonics, and I'm pretty sure that's also a Witcher thing. They do a lot. I only played, like, the very beginning of one of the video games, and, like, the show doesn't cover it nearly as much, but I think the video games are heavily into, like, boosting your stats using, like, potions and tonics and stuff like that.
It was actually kind of hard to find footage that I could easily access of any of the Witchers drinking potions from the show, but it does happen in the show. It's not explained. You're just supposed to understand that this is, like, a part of Witcher culture. I think it comes up more in season 2. But anyway, yes, especially in the games, but even in the show, potions, tonics, that kind of thing are a part of Witcher culture.
Oh, apparently she thinks he bought the healing tonics from the orphanage, which is weird. It's a weird thing to assume. If the orphanage, how good are these healing tonics? Because if the orphanage has healing tonics, could they not have beat the children and then use the tonics on them to heal their wounds so there were no marks? Or do tonics still, like, leave a scar? Further reading, I think, is necessary to figure out how these tonics work. Now, about 3 pages into this chapter, she's finally, like, coming around and starting to wonder about her choice. And I'm just curious why we had that extended sequence of her disassociating. Could she not have started to wonder about her choice right away? Also, talk about filtering and making us feel removed from the character. Feeling herself begin to wonder about the wisdom of her path. The word choices and sentence structures just keep us sitting back. He's vague about what his job is. He said they help the kingdoms with, and then he trails off. Is it killing monsters, sir? Is that what you help the kingdoms with?
Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty, O Valley of Plenty.
She thinks about how she hadn't planned to travel without Knox, but she doesn't think about Knox. You would think that would be one of the first things that she would think about. Where is Knox? How can I meet up with her? How can I readjust my plan? I need to find her. But she's like not thought about Knox really at all yet, except for the fact that she doesn't know how to like survive without her, which just goes to show you how one-sided their relationship was. She's actively cleaning the wounds on her face, and she's still not so much as a brief description of the pain. Does she not feel pain, except for on her period? I feel like we're getting some world building that's not going to pay off. So she smears some of the tonic on her eye, and then she drinks the rest, which is unusual, but okay. And she's like, is it magic? And he says, it's old magic. Tonics like that are one of the first inventions of healers and manufacturers came together to create. Tonics have been around since, well, long before you and I were born. Also, Amaris doesn't understand half of what he said. He said like 2 sentences. But like, I feel like this is a bit of a hand-wavy thing that's never going to really be brought up again. I bet we never find out about inventions of healers and manufacturers and the past and why the tonics happened or how they came about. This is just to hand-wave away this magical thing that was in the video game. She doesn't understand what he meant by old magic. You asked him if it was magic, which means the word you don't understand is old. We finally get a description of pain. It stings. She stood and considered the scarred, fatherly assassin from a ways off. I have to read you some of these sentences every now and then. I don't know if this is the first book that this person has ever written. If it is, it's definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen for a first book, but it's definitely like, I would say, one of her first books. Then again, perhaps this is closer to a first draft than we would like most of these things to be by the time they're published.
To be clear, I am not calling this a first draft. That's one of my least favorite things is when I see reviews that say this reads like a first draft from people who clearly have no idea what a first draft reads like. I'm saying this is probably a third draft when it should be at least maybe a 5th or 6th before it's published. She seems to have gotten rid of most of the typographical errors, but now she needs to go back in and get real vicious about shaving out some of this fat. But again, to be clear, not saying this is a first draft. This is very clearly not a first draft, and people who make that comment drive me insane.
So we find out that the man's name is Audrin, or Odrin. I'm probably going to go with Audrin. He doesn't have white hair, though, so I wonder if we're going to find a different character who's Geralt, and this is just like a random witcher. Also, there's a whole thing about names in this book, too. Like, why is this a thing with Jenna Maressi and this author? Ooh, names are cool. And, like, I get it. I like names, too. But, like, you don't need to explain them. Just, like, if you picked a cool name for your character, maybe just let the reader, like, look it up. Alternately, you could use it as something. For example, she's like, they told me my name means, like, gift from the goddess. You could be like, it means gift from the goddess in the language of the elves. Or, like, use it to do some world building instead of just being like, I have a special name. But where he's from, it means child of the moon. Because everything in this book is so ridiculously on the nose. Subtlety, who is she? We don't know her. The passage of time is very oppy in this as well. And again, that's something I sometimes struggle with. Especially, like, if there's multiple, like, passage of multiple days, I kind of struggle to, like, figure out how many should pass and when. But anyway, enough about me. This day is the longest day that was ever existed because it was, like, sundown when they stopped to eat the rabbit, and it's still sundown once they've reached this village. Like, if they were this close to the village, why did they stop to make a campfire and eat a rabbit? At least we are getting signs of their religion. I will give the author this. She is remembering that they have a strong religion in this world and in this country, and like there's a church and there's signs for the All-Mother and things like that. So she does get points for that where Jenna Maressi failed. I will give the author some more credit. Wow, more credit in one episode. Amaris is feeling really timid, really nervous. She has no idea how to interact with the town. She goes over to, like, the inn, and she wonders if she should knock, because in her old life, everybody knocked before they went in places. And then, like, that's good. I like that. She's fish out of water. She doesn't know how to interact with this world. Apparently, the healing tonic didn't do jack shit, because when she walks into the innkeeper is like, OMG, your poor face. What did the tonic do? Also, she never spread any on her, like, chest, so. The middle-aged woman put her hands on her hip. Just one hip. She was like, Meh. Okay. So, the barkeep lady is freaking out and bandaging all of Amaris's injuries, but when Amaris catches herself in the mirror, she sees that the injuries look 2 weeks old. 2 weeks? So obviously the healing tonic did do something, but like, why is this woman freaking out if these cuts look 2 weeks old? 2 weeks gives them a lot of time to really, like, properly heal. And this woman is bandaging them like they are fresh. This woman is like, I know you're half fae. We get fairies in here all the time. Was it your mother or your father who is fae? And Amaris is like, huh? So she pays the innkeeper for a hair wrap and, like, one other thing. Like a cloak or something. Or a tunic. Yeah, it was a tunic. And then she runs off after Orden and is like, I want to travel with you. And, like, honestly, we could have skipped that whole sequence with the innkeeper. There was a little bit there that the innkeeper scene was doing, like revealing that around here people aren't too freaked out by people who look fae, and sort of Amaris realizing that she might not be human. But I feel like maybe we could have come to that just by her having a conversation with her Witcher friend. Okay, I'm gonna give this one anachronistic language, because she's like, take me with you and teach me to fight. And he's like, no, we don't train girls. And she says, well, that's rather sexist. Sounds like they had to grow up sometime. That's rather sexist? I'm sure that's something people in a fantasy world would totally say. Mark it off on your bingo card. We were getting close with some of the things that were already being said within the narrative, but now it's being said by characters, so we're giving it to it.
So I decided to do a little bit of research because the idea that these special warriors are only men definitely also comes from the Witcher series, and so I was like, well, why is it in the Witcher series? And it's never completely explained exactly why they're all men, the ones that we see, but in the Witcher story, it seems to imply that because the Witchers need to go through magical mutation to become Witchers, the women just don't survive it as much, which is still, I think, sexism on the part of the author of the Witcher series, but we're not going to talk about that. There is an in-world explanation, potentially, for why the Witchers are all men. There are female Witchers in some apparently peripheral stuff, like a role-playing game, and I think like a short film or something like that. But we don't see any of them in the main series, in the game, or even in the show yet. I'm curious to see how they do it in the show. But in this, it's just because they're sexist. They just don't want to train girls because girls are icky or something. They don't even have a good reason.
She's decided that he's going to adopt her. She's like, I've never had a father, but she apparently is like, yeah, this guy is fatherly, whatever that means. So I guess I'm just gonna, like, throw myself on his mercy and be like, let me be your daughter and also train me to fight. Which seems like a lot to ask of a guy who already helped you quite a bit. I don't know why she suddenly sort of flipped a switch to, I need to learn how to fight. This was never a thought that she had until now. She hasn't even seen him fight. He's bristling with weapons, so she can probably assume that he's a warrior. But honestly, I would have maybe had a quick scene where he had to fight something off that could have given her the idea that, oh, I want to be like him, be a warrior, defend myself. Maybe even it's a situation where she is in danger and then he easily dispatches the danger and she's like, that would be cool if I could do that myself. So that this didn't come the fuck out of nowhere. We head hop to his head to realize that he had a wife and baby at one point who probably died tragically.
Apparently the author did write his backstory, and it's like a short story on her website, so I might read that for the patrons later. You find out his tragic backstory with his, no doubt, sainted wife and child who died horribly.
You play the ghost of a dream of a memory of a cyborg warrior trying to find his dead wife inside a poem.
Riding the horse is painful for her, which is realistic. If you haven't ridden before, which she hadn't, yeah, I'd be really uncomfortable sitting on a horse all day. Especially since she's usually sitting behind him in a part of the saddle that's not really made to be sat on, so... But hey, at least we are not having to check off yet a main character immediately good at a high-skill activity, which does include horseback riding. She hasn't asked him, like, a fucking question about himself. She's just like, take me with you, train me to fight. I've asked you your name and nothing else. Does she just assume that he's not going to answer? Like, ma'am. Oh, we got ourselves a badass over here. So she's feeling miserable, she's cold, she's sleeping on the ground, she's sore from her day. None of it mattered. She welcomed the pain like a new friend. She invited the chill to invade her muscles, her blood, her bones. Yeah, she's a badass in the making, everyone. She finds out that they're headed for the village of Stone. She asks him if they're going to the Darklands, and he's like, no, we call it the Northlands. Sorry, the Northern Kingdom. Oh, they don't like to be called assassins. They like to be called Reevers, which is also used in a lot of video games. We can't call them Witchers. And that's it. That's the end of chapter 5. They're headed for the Witcher place. I'm thinking about my own book that begins with a woman riding off on the back of a horse with a strange man. Amaris is completely, like, given herself to this man. Like, she's already decided that he is her surrogate father, and she is completely on board. She wants to be trained. Even though Maeve and Valentine are inclined to become friends in my book, they have to build some levels of trust and work out some kinks before they're ready to be like, yeah, we're family. Like, that's not till the end of the book. This girl has just, like, baby ducklinged onto this poor man, and I feel bad for him. Anyway, I'll see you for the next chapter. And we're back for more Bad Book Bingo and more The Night and Its Moon. I have my emotional support ice cream. Just out of curiosity, let's find out how long chapter 6 is. Probably 30 pages again. Oh no, chapter 6 is really short. Oh, and we'll be on to part 2. Okay. Okay. This is like a manageable chapter. So you do know how to write those. There was a small pond behind Farley that would freeze in the winters. If you stepped on it too early, it would fracture into 10,000 clear slices. Though the water might appear clear twice in a row, and flowing beneath, the truth of its brokenness was plain on the surface. Knox thought of this pond as her hand went to her heart, clutching her palms against the chest as if she could hold it together from crumbling. Ah! Just so friggin' overwrought. The drama, the metaphor.
Yes, very sad. Anyway.
Just in case, though, you didn't get that from the first paragraph, then it just tells you she had shattered. I mean, I don't blame her for being upset. This girl that she's in love with basically just, like, fucked off with a strange man, like, the first chance she got. I'd be upset, too. Didn't even look back. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 right off with a strange man. And if she knew how little Amaris was even thinking about her. So Knox is being taken away with Millicent, who I guess decided that if she was going to be there and get an interesting looking girl, she couldn't have the white one, she was gonna take the black one? I think I'm going to hell just for saying that. Okay, there's such a thing as taking a good idea and beleaguering the point. I like this first line, but everything out the window looked the same. Every naked autumnal tree was the same tree. Every gray broken rock was the same. I would say every gray broken rock was the same rock. And I would leave it at that. But then she goes on for another paragraph, just sentence after sentence. This was the same, and that was the same, and that was the same. You've killed it. It's dead. Please stop beating it. Yeah, I'm sorry, Knox. I'm afraid she's just not that into you. Knox, like, of course, waited for this girl. So in the first chapter, we hang out with young Knox, who is, like, curious to a fault. She goes into situations she shouldn't because she's curious about them. But now adult Knox, when she was hiding behind the stable and she heard a shriek from out front of the building, she was not drawn to investigate. So I guess all of her curiosity has, like, left her. She is so connected to Amaris that as soon as Amaris was gone, she could just feel it. She could just tell. Also, we get an entire paragraph reiterating over and over again in slightly different ways how she could sense that Amaris was gone. And now Knox is stuck in place, she can't move, and we get, like, most of a page telling us about that. It's so noticeable, this chapter. How every single action that happens, every single thing, is over-described. You can still tell your exact same story. This can be the same book. Your style doesn't even need to change. You just need to get rid of all of this fat. 2 pages could be summed up with Knox was discovered and dragged out of her hiding spot. Like, I know making it a little bit more than that would be fine, but we don't need it to be 2 pages long. So obviously, they drag her out to the courtyard, and the Madame is like, yes, I'll take that one, which we already knew she did because this chapter started out with her in the carriage, so if this was meant to be like a surprise, like, why are we watching this scene if we already know that she went with the Madam? Why not just start the scene with her in hiding and then let the story go chronologically? But anyway, for some reason, Agnes is upset by this idea. By the way, don't mind the airplanes overhead. We are in the middle of a very big airplane convention that happens every summer, and it's stupid and dangerous, and no one who comes for it knows how to drive. Side tangent, they nearly took my frickin' sister out the other day. Somebody blew through a red light and nearly smashed into her driver's side door because these out-of-town fuckers cannot drive. We have roundabouts that they don't know how to use, so that's dangerous. But then also, apparently, they don't even know how just regular old lights work. This author also likes to rely on her characters just sort of suddenly becoming like disassociated and detached and like not caring what's happening to them, because that's happening with Knox, and it happened in the previous chapter where Amaris climbed onto the guy's horse and then like disassociated for a good portion of the ride. Whenever she just needs a character, even a character who was previously being very proactive, whenever she needs a character to just like go along with something, that character just zones out. And it's fine if sometimes characters do this, but it seems like both of them are doing it. So Agnes is like mildly upset that Knox is going. I guess Knox is her favorite. But like not enough to protest. She's just like, okay, cool. I'm a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, sure. Also, we have a black woman being sold into sex slavery. Again, that's not a great look. I'm just shaking my head as I read because nearly every one of these sentences is just so poorly constructed. If I stopped to show you every single awkward sentence, I'd just be reading you the book. I feel like if the author ever became self-aware enough to realize that she wasn't the shit and God's gift to writing, which I suspect is how she feels most of the time, then she might be willing to start working on getting her books into a better state. She'd probably find her authorial voice. She'd probably be able to distill her ideas down, to realize that she was an overwriter, to learn how to cope with that. But she's had a lot of success right out of the gate, which to me does not imply that she's probably going to have a whole lot of interest in improving so much as just cranking out more stories at the same skill level. I get a lot of flack online when my main piece of writing advice is to practice. I don't personally know the people who give me flack about it, but I have my suspicions that they might be people who want to just write one book and be good at it. Like, they feel that they should be able to crank out their first ever book and it's just going to be an amazing bestseller, and they're mad when I tell them that that's probably not how that's going to work. And those people, you just got to let them find that out on their own. Now, of course, she is doing pretty well with this book. I personally really want to always be trying to improve my craft, trying to grow, try new things every time. So a lot of times I will say, oh gosh, I hope this author keeps trying, I hope she gets better. Like with the author of The Cyborg Tinkerer, I legitimately think, just like watching her videos and stuff, that she is interested in learning and getting better, as long as she didn't get scared away from writing completely by all of the criticism of her book. That's why I was like, I want you to grow, I want you to get better, keep trying, versus this author, I'm going to be less encouraging of because I don't think she cares. So you might see a little bit less of that whole softer side of Julian that's like, she just seems really passionate if she would just practice. Okay, this is a typo, but it makes the sentence very, very funny. There have not been all that many typos. Awkward sentences galore, but typos? But this one is great. She's looking at the trees. The trees were unfamiliar. She saw tall, bare drunks with leaves existing only in a collection at the very top. Drunks. So now I'm picturing naked drunk men holding branches over their heads. So apparently Knox disassociated for 2 weeks straight and now they have reached the city where the brothel is, and part 2 is called Ownership. And again, I need to remind you that we have sold a black woman into sexual slavery. So we're gonna go ahead and leave it here because I have some other videos I want to film today. I lost my bookmark. I don't know where it went. Where did it go? Where is it? Where is my bookmark, Nigel? Well, alright, I have to find my bookmark, but I'll see you for the next chapter. Bye. Alright, we're going on to the next section of this one called Ownership, which I'm trying to go into this like not pre-annoyed, but with a title like that, I'm feeling pretty pre-annoyed. Fortunately, this chapter is a far more manageable length, so at least there's that. Chapter 7. We're back with Amaris and the man she doesn't know that she ran off with. I thought we were going to get a time skip. Like, if you're going to make it a whole new section of the book, it seems like it'd be a great place to time skip, but we didn't. So I'm not really sure why she decided to put a new section in this spot. Also, if you're writing a fantasy book, did you know that you don't have to have, like, sections like this? Not required. Let's have a quick lesson in keeping your world building engaging through characters. Our author today has done it both wrong and right in the same book. In the same paragraph. So she describes the city of Stone as a place that Amaris does not like. So in the first paragraph, it's explained to us that Amaris does not like it. Then we have some dialogue. How can people live here? She cringed as she eyed the town. What's wrong with it? Audrin asked, confused by her tone. You can also eliminate confused by her tone. The question mark implies that he's confused. They're stuck against the mountain. How can they not feel like they're about to be crushed? I've never been anywhere that's made me feel so claustrophobic. Cut out that entire first paragraph where it's described how she's feeling about the place and let her tell us in this bit of dialogue down here. The dialogue did the job. It kept it more dynamic. We are experiencing the world through the characters in this bit of dialogue instead of just being told what she's thinking and feeling above. Also, I would just like to point out that the very white girl made an impulsive decision and ran off with a strange man, and she is going to be rewarded by getting what she wants now, which is to learn how to fight. The man is very nice, he's fatherly, he's not dangerous at all. Meanwhile, the brown-skinned girl that she abandoned behind is having to take her place at a brothel where I'm sure she's not going to be well treated. I'm just going to point that out, put that out in the world. Don't think that's a great situation. So the previous time we were with this character, the author did a great job of making her feel like a fish out of water because she'd like literally never seen a village before. But now she says, Audrin stopped at what seemed to be a rather ordinary shopkeeper's stall. How would she know what an ordinary shopkeeper's stall looks like? And trust me, she didn't go to one while we weren't watching because this author describes everything. This author has a real problem with word repetition in the same paragraphs and sentences. We have qualities and qualities used twice in the same sentence. This is just something that you need to get used to looking for as you edit. It's something that I have to look for as I edit. Our brains can easily latch onto a word and use it multiple times without us realizing it. It always drives me crazy when people treat spelling and grammar as though they are the be-all and end-all of book quality. I would rather read a well-written book, that is a tongue twister actually, that has more spelling and grammatical errors than a flawlessly spell-checked book where the writing is just shit. Like, I read fan fiction. I'm here for the story. Obviously, if there's so many errors that it is literally unreadable, I'm not here for it, but like, I'll forgive spelling and grammatical errors way more than I'll forgive lazy storytelling. A leather-stretched ball made from the skin of deer hide. First of all, it should probably be stretched leather, but also hide and skin mean the same thing, so made of deer hide is appropriate, I believe. I also won't get into how many adverbs are in this book. Obviously, there's a lot. We have a novice writer on our hands. And as you all know, I don't have a problem with adverbs. I think they're a perfectly useful part of language. However, you do not want to flood your book with them, and this book is just absolutely overflowing. She meets a kid, she has a moment of being like, boy, what must it be like to be allowed to have a childhood? And I'm having a really hard time feeling sorry for her because, like, she was, even though she grew up in a shitty place, her life was not as shitty as Knox is, and is not going to be as shitty as Knox is going to be. So, yeah, having a hard time feeling any sympathy for this little shit. She gets upset when she thinks that Audrin has gone without her, but he's just moved a little way down to some other stores. And I'm like, absolutely no thought in your head, not a single thought in your head for having left Knox behind and how she must feel the same way having been abandoned by you. So very close to giving it all characters are stereotypes because there's just not an original thought in this. So it's not necessarily all characters are stereotypes so much as all characters are characters that I have seen before. There's no one new who I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such an original character. Who are they? I want to get to know them. It's all like, yep, we've got grizzled guy, we've got crabby nuns. She's like super, super afraid of the mountain looming above them, which I guess is fair. She's never seen a mountain before, but she's like convinced that it's just gonna fall on them. Kind of wish it would fall on her, to be honest. She's finally asking his horse's name. Nice of her to finally ask that after like several days. His horse doesn't have a name. That's great. No, I hate it. I hate that. Why doesn't his horse have a name? He says he just bought it, like, a little while ago, and I'm like, so give it a name, or ask what its old name was. Like, what kind of person doesn't name their horse? As a horse girl, I am very upset about this. Oh, the horse needs to not have a name so that our amazing, awesome, perfect main character can name him herself. Also, legitimately, we also have no plot in sight. I'm not sure where this book is going. I have no idea of any, like, larger, overarching conflict that might be happening. But at the pace this book goes, this is basically like, we're still in chapter 2 if this was a normal book. So I'm giving it longer than I might to give me some kind of plot. She wants to name it Cloud first, which would suit it. It's a dapple gray horse. But then she says, or Skyfall, and I want to know if that's a reference to something, maybe Skyrim. I don't know, but like, what an odd choice.
Let the sky fall when it crumbles.
They decide to name him Cobb because Audrin had a dog named Cobb when he was a kid, and when the dog died, he named his cat Cobb. So apparently he just names his animals Cobb, which again begs the question, why didn't he just name it before? But I'm going to be watching this author. Does she know anything about horses? We're going to find out.
Get used to disappointment.
Okay, so they're starting to go up the mountain on a path so thin that sometimes they have to dismount and lead the horse. And I'm already calling bullshit because if he's only had this horse for a very short time and he doesn't know the horse and the horse doesn't know him, this horse is not going to be thrilled by the idea of like negotiating this very slim path. This horse is going to be like, are you crazy, sir? No. If the horse knew him, if they were friends and the horse trusted him, yeah, sure. But this horse would be like, no, goodbye. Also, it's nighttime, so he's asking a horse in the nighttime to walk up trails so thin that he has to dismount and lead the horse. Lucky for this author who doesn't like to write a lot of dialogue, Audrin just is not a talker. Again, very reminiscent of a certain other character. And also, Amaris is like, cool, I don't like to talk either, so it's a good thing neither of them are talkers. And we got another typo. Like I said, relatively few typos. This one isn't as funny as the previous typo. She's already like hardening herself to this like new job she's just now decided she wants, where she's like, I'm not gonna complain about my feet being sore or being sore from riding the horse or being cold. I'm not gonna complain about any of it, even though she's bitching to us in her own head, but she's already being tough. Honestly, if you're gonna have us whine about it in her head, why not just have her whine about it in real life? Let her start out a little bit whingy so she has like a place to grow from. Here's something I don't hate. She thinks this trail is really long, and at some point she knew in her soul that she had been climbing this cliff for her entire life. She had been born on this trail, and it was on this very trail that she would grow old and die. I actually kind of like that. Like, this author can do things. She just hides it in mountains and mountains of unnecessary writing. So they have reached the end of the cliff and there's a stone bridge in front of them, and all I can think about, because I'm a Dragon Age bitch, is Skyhold from Dragon Age Inquisition. That bridge, that would be so awesome to cross in real life. It's so epic. And of course she's coming up on a fortress that is built into the mountain. He tells her the name of the place, which is like a fantasy name that I'm gonna not try to pronounce. And that's the end of that chapter. And we're gonna stop here because I have other chores to do today. But I wonder how long, let's look and see how long chapter 8 is. Oh, it looks like we're back to form with a ridiculously long chapter. Cool, cool, cool. Love that for us. That's a problem for future Julian. I'll see you guys when we tackle that one.
Tia. Did you hear the news? Tell her. Oh, tell her, Big Daddy.
Amanda, Unicorn Jenny, Celia, Neon, Taya, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, My96, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Sarah, Ashley, and Hidden Glade. Thanks again for all your help. All your help is really big news.